Welcome back to Freedom to Learn podcast. My name is Guru Yeleshwarapu, CEO of Silicon Valley for You. And for those who are new to this podcast, subscribe to the channel and also press on the like button. So today we have Demi Bekele in the US pronunciation and Bekele, if I got it right. I hope I got it right. And so I've been working with her for what? 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is. And I have known her in Bay Area. And she's originally from Ethiopia. And so she is one of the industry experts in tech industry. And so without further ado, welcome, Demi.
Thank you, Guru. Nice to be here.
Yep. So let's talk and just for the viewers, why don't you introduce about yourself, your childhood, and what brings you to US?
All right. So my name is Demi Bekele, and I was born and raised in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, which is the capital of the capital of Ethiopia. I lived there until late high school, and then I came here and finished my high school here. My family is considered, I guess, upper middle class family based on US. And then I went to an all girls Catholic school until I came here and completed high school here. I have very fond memories of my childhood, playing with my siblings and cousins, reading novels, which was my favorite thing to do, and watching movies. I loved taking part in school plays. I loved acting, entertaining. In fact, I always thought I would go into the entertainment business, but life has its funny ways of directing you in different directions. You just have to follow. On summer breaks, we went to a few resorts that were available at that time. Now it's very different. There are many entertainment venues, and traveling abroad is very common now. So what brought me to the US was really to pursue my education. My parents sent us, me and my siblings, to the US to go to college with hopes that we would return back home. And I studied business and information systems in my undergrad, and I got my MBA. And now I work in the field of cybersecurity, implementing cyber risk management solutions for various clients, both in the government space and commercial space. So that's a little bit about myself.
Yeah, fantastic. So it's just so you know, a lot of our viewers are in the process of coming to US, or at least planning to come to US, or dreaming about coming to US as well. So there is, I think it's a, as you know very well, most of our audiences are from college schools and their parents. And so just talk to about your experiences when you first arrived to this country, and also any tips that you might have for those who are aspiring to be here, and what it takes to get it done and how it goes. And I know things are very different compared to what it was. As you very well said, people are just visiting left and right, and the internet made it very easy.
Right.
But nevertheless, there are some advantages you had back in the day. I think immigration was much simpler. I don't know how it is for you guys nowadays, but I can speak for India. It's relatively extremely complex. It takes very long time. And people are talking about 10, 15 years to get a green card. So just talk about your experience when you first landed here. Did you have to make any adjustments, or it was okay? You had a prior knowledge about the conditions here and things like that?
The US. Yeah. So I came here in the late 80s. So definitely things were different. Immigration was not easy back then either, but having my siblings, my older siblings out here and coming here with a student visa certainly helped. And then, after living here for certain years, then you go through the process of, applying for a residency, and then if that gets accepted. Adjusting to this country was most definitely, a chore, if not more. I come from a very different country, different culture. Drastically different culture. And in this country, to succeed, you have to promote yourself. You have to talk about yourself. You have to talk about your accomplishments. Where I come from, you don't. So other people do the talking for you. So yeah, it was a very different culture, but also internet was not there. The things you learned about the US was through books. For me, reading was just an eye opener. For me, I read a lot about teenage books in the US, relationships, how they maneuver through high school and teenagedom through books. So when I came here, luckily I went to a boarding school, which kind of was a controlled environment. So I wasn't like thrown into like a big city or something like that. So I didn't have to take school buses or anything like that. So the school was pretty small. I think there were maybe 500 students in the high school. So it was pretty intimate, and that helped very much. And then when I finished high school, and I knew English, we learn English as a second language in Ethiopia, so that was not difficult. Certainly, I had to adjust my accents through the years, kind of naturally changed. But and then I went to college. Also, I stayed in the dorm, so again, pretty controlled. And then after 4 or 5 years, I was ready to face the world, and I did. Having my family here was also very, very helpful, and they kind of helped me maneuver through everything, right? Getting a job and getting a place to live and stuff like that. So that made it very easy. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you put very well that. So I came in early 90s, and so yes, there was still no internet, and we had the experiences were very, very different back then, and for me especially, I didn't have any idea of this country whatsoever. I didn't know anybody. Well, so I never bothered to learn. I never bothered to know prior to coming here, and so I had this I don't know, some kind of a carefree mentality that I can swing it and then learn on the fly attitude, and then so I just landed here, and so I didn't know the difference between New York and New York City.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting confused. Like every time they say New York, New York, New York, where am I, man? So anyway. So now, with all the changes, what I mean by immigration is that, I think that coming here is maybe more or less same compared to what it was, I think. But once you get here, things were fairly simpler in our time, where, for instance, to get a green card used to take roughly 2 years, whatever. And nowadays, it became exceedingly crazy, and 15 years doesn't make a lot of sense. So in other words, you come and live for green card, more or less. And
yeah.
so that shouldn't be the case. Right? People have to live for their life or career, and you don't live for just to stay in a particular place. So that's the reason, this whole Silicon Valley for you vision is to, hey, you don't have to come here until you're ready to come here. So we'll bring this to you. You build your, value from wherever you are. Once you have a value, trust me, you can get the green card instantly. Things
It
have,
opens up doors,
yeah.
right? Certainly.
Even in the front door, they just open it. So there are schemes right now. If you can show that you have certain number of employees and certain number of investment into a business, you get instantly green card, sorry, instantly.
Right.
And that's even there. It's pretty open. There is no back door. I mean, I know people who lives here. They just invested in Burger King just to get a green card, and they landed here from other countries. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know quite a few. I mean, in fact, they live around here, Denver. So now, you and I worked to bring these coding classes, Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley for you to Ethiopia. And so there are similarities. Like one of the things you said is, even coming from India, I call it we pessimistic word, because we never speak about ourselves. So we, like you said, we expect somebody else to speak about us, right? So, but things are changing. Even they're changing in India too. I don't know about Ethiopia.
Right.
So I call it influencer world. We are in
Right.
Instagram influencer, YouTube. So where you have to influence, and if you don't, especially for future generation people, if you're not influencer of XYZ, world will not know you. The only way they know you is back then, like you said, you show your credentials, you show your certificates or some talents, showcase your talents and say, let's say, for instance, you wanted to be actor, you show your talents and say, you go for auditions and hopefully you get selected. Nowadays, that's not the case. By the time you go for audition, they have to know you. They'll ask you for profile and they have to look at your video content and say, oh, okay, so this is you. And if they don't, I don't think you have a shot at anything, in my opinion. So yeah, and with that, so can you speak to what it means to have these technology programs in underdeveloping countries like Ethiopia, India, and so in particular, Ethiopia in this conversation?
So it's evident that we live in an era where, excuse me, technology is a part of our daily lives, right? The Internet of Things it's integrated in most of the things we use, from the cars we drive to machines we use at home, and et cetera, et cetera. And that's only going to get more amplified in the coming generations. So technology allows creativity, it allows critical thinking and problem solving. It allows communication beyond your physical boundaries. So if you have the internet, right, it opens up opportunities to everyone, regardless of their location or socioeconomic background. If you have a smartphone and a laptop and an internet, you're set to enter that world of technology, regardless of your geographic location. So to me, it was important to bring coding classes to elementary and high school students in Ethiopia, in order to give students kind of a kickstart at an early age, and help them develop not only their interest into coding and technology, but the skills needed to compete in a global scale once they're out of school, which you touched upon earlier. Now, as there are many challenges that exist in developing countries, particularly, it's in the hands of the current and future generations to tackle those challenges and improve their environment. And coding and the principles around problem solving and critical thinking with technology is a fundamental part of changing that status quo for countries and harnessing sort of that entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah.
So that's the importance of technology in my mind for underdeveloped countries. But what we found when you and I started talking to, enrolling students from Ethiopia, we found that most of the students had some level of basic coding experiences, right? Mainly the Scratch application. I think every student that pretty much most of the students were familiar with it. But these are students that go to private schools, right? They don't represent the masses. They don't, right? So, so there's a lot of work that needs to be done to bring equity to the rest of the students. We also found that schools didn't have advanced level of coding courses. So parents were looking for alternative ways to enroll kids. So we were able to kind of serve those students who came to us. So yeah, I think that was kind of our finding and the reason why we went there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, that's so. So there are two sides to it, in my opinion. One is everything you explained, right? Other side is there are a lot of initiatives by the governments to bring these tech companies to boost their economies, right? So, however, I was talking to someone in Nigeria, so they are trying to bring some fintech and this, that. So whatever it may be, the challenge is, so what's happening is as a result of this, the initiative or push through United Nations or otherwise, you bring this tech, but you need the talent. So the person who is already in 30s, with all due respect, who is already in the market, and the person doesn't have a lot of enthusiasm, and you need a person who can execute this, right? These people can come, they can set up offices, they can do everything. At the end of the day, the economy boosts by having your folks running the show, and you don't have folks running the show. And if you start training somebody who is already in this industry, then you are getting small number of people, problem number one. And also they may or may not have a potential to get up to the speed in a very short span. So as a result, what's happening is in most of the countries, it's becoming a namesake initiative. Just it's there, but nothing really gets get out of that effort. So, and then it just stays and stays and stays, and so whatever happens. So I've seen quite a few in India. So even government initiatives, I'm telling you, literally nobody shows up where they are supposed to meet. No one shows up. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. That's that. But my point is that even if average case or above average cases where things are rolling, these are the bottlenecks. My take is when you want to bring initiative like that, you should bring that to a college student or I don't know how the education system is. For higher education in Ethiopia, so undergrad student or 11th and 12th and things like that. So basically, if you plan on doing this for next 10 years, so while you're doing all those initiatives, you start this first year guy, be trained, and by the time they get out of the college, you have battalion of people, they can serve that particular industry with required tools.
Absolutely.
That is where I have, that is where I think, we can really help. And that's my passion to begin with. In fact, you put it very nicely, right? There's private school people or affluent communities. They do have some background of coding. They have internet access, they have laptops, they did something in the past. And those who were not exposed to this, they don't even know. The problem with that is when they don't know, when you don't know, you don't know what you don't know, and they just don't show up because they just don't know. And so that's the reason this has to be launched very early and then have these folks who take advantage of this program, recycle those guys to communicate with the next generation people or slightly younger students to bring the interest levels up and have the workforce ready when this industry comes to your country. If you don't have workforce, so let's say, simply put, we want to set up a data center, right? There are so many, I think they're picking a lot of African countries for data centers. I believe they're doing somewhere in North Africa right now. I forgot the country name. So they are doing all that, but you know who is working there? People from here, they're being shipped.
Right, that's right.
And then if these guys go and then run the show there, it's going to take many decades for people to catch up and do anything that's useful to, you know, impact the economy of local economy for the local governments and local people, more importantly. So with that's what I've been, you know, telling, at least in India, whenever I get an opportunity. I don't have a way to say this in other countries. So with that, let's segue into, you know, again, back to education. So, you know, there is a gap, right? I always talk about it. And there's a gap in the education system, and between education system and the actual world we just spoke about, right? So all these guys are graduating, whatever that means. And when they get out, they are not ready for the work, and for whatever reasons, many reasons. So why don't you talk about it more specifically for those who are listening from Ethiopia, if it makes sense to them, because you studied there, you also studied here, you understand education on both sides.
Yeah, so you're asking about the gap between the schools, the academic world versus the real world.
The real world, right? Simply put, right? Simply put, you know, a person is investing 20 years and you got a degree. Now the company, the industry is saying you don't have a job. That doesn't make any sense. Why did they invest 20 years if I
so we need some sort of cohesion there.
Yeah.
So where I see the gap is that the real world is moving, 10 times faster than academia. So I feel like, especially with technology or technical education, there will always be a gap between what is taught in schools and what's in the real world. Technology reaches a much larger population than academia. As such, and new ideas and new solutions are born at a much faster speed because there are a lot of users and they have lots of ideas and solutions. Therefore, there will always be that gap. In terms of mitigation, bridging that gap, I think having like an industry-oriented research and innovation or innovative kind of entities embedded in the academic organizations as sort of like a catalyst for like entrepreneurial education, working side by side with the industry. I think the academia can benefit a lot. Ensuring like educational institutions work directly with many type of SMEs, right, across the country, across the globe, incorporating internship programs, which leverage strong engagement with businesses and industries and communities, will allow the students to have like a strong sense of each of these areas and gives them the tools to become problem solvers in various communities. That's for me. I don't think we're going to get rid of colleges. I don't think we're going to get rid of academia, but they have to work together.
Correct.
There has to be that cohesive back and forth and an opportunity for students to work in these organizations so that when they are coming to the real world, maybe they're coming with solution already in mind, solution that they're already working, they've already worked on while they were in school that could benefit the world, right? So that's where I see the gap, the speed, the fast speed of technology and the lagging of schools. But I think the mitigation is where you bring those two together.
Yeah, I think you put it very nicely. So I think, I call it, you learn by doing it. And
absolutely.
Yeah, so the challenge is, see, I especially in my business, I deal with a lot of students. if you take any student, especially who is in college, right now we are working with a lot of colleges. We work with 150 colleges now. Any college student now, when you go and say, hey, you need to learn cryptocurrency now. So the guy is already fatigued. And, I learned so many things, like, man, I mean, it's like, okay. So now is at a point where, okay, all right, I'll do it. So what is in it for me? Why should I do it? So his point is that they're some folks, just lost in this whole marathon of just keep learning and adding and certificates. And then where is it going? I mean, where am I going with all this? And in fact, I'll share it with you, screenshot. I saved it. This guy is, he did UPenn, Wharton School, Stanford, and MIT, all four in his education in LinkedIn. So, I told him, some folks don't know when to stop studying. I mean, he's just keep going. And so the other keyword you used is problem solving. I mean, it's great. It's great to go to one of the best schools. It's a dream for everybody in the world, right? They are best schools in the world and but are you able to apply that and solve any problem which is legitimate?
That's right. Right.
If you are not, then if your goal is just to learn and maybe just to study very complex problems as part of this, I guess I don't. And then, so that's, if that is what I want, to do. Yes, of course you should do whatever.
It's just that career students.
Correct. My take for those folks is, for the system, that's one of the paths. That's a path. So if that person wants to keep going, keep studying until whatever happens, and that's what he or she chose, and that can be a path. But what's happening is everybody else is forced into this path of just keep learning, and
Right.
then they are never given opportunity to really solve a problem. When you really solve a problem, you get excited. You get that sense of accomplishment.
That's correct.
And if you don't, then why in the world, why am I doing this one more time? So I guess, that's where, as you rightly said, industry and in education entities come together and say, you do this, I do this, you do. However, I was talking to one of the top schools in India, one of the professors, it's called IIT Madras.
Yes.
It's so different. Their paces, as you said, the school pace, when companies come and start working with them, they're getting bored and leaving. So they just left. They said, okay, here is what, go and then use it, because these guys have this sense of urgency. I have to release this, right? You work in the cybersecurity, right? You have these releases, you have products, you got to push it because there's a market expecting something out of you guys.
Right.
This school, they are like, oh man, let's just wait until, if it get delayed by 6 months, who's there to question them? And so I guess the point is that marriage is not happening. You are absolutely right that it will not change. My take on this whole thing is a student has to raise above this level. If you just rely or expecting your education system / schools to do it for you, you are in sort of an illusion.
Right.
And it's not going to happen. And this is where you as a person has to figure out what works best for you, as in, no matter what degree you are doing, are you going to utilize that, or do you have to try a few other things? You want to start that journey sooner, when you're still in the school, than wait until you finish your school and start wondering what do I do now? It's like, so that's where I was. I know, that's why I can speak. I know exactly. After I finished my education and everything, then I started wondering. I told you, when I came to US, I didn't know anything because they sent me here, I got here. So I
I
really,
think that's how it is for most of us. I mean, I graduated and I didn't know what the heck I was supposed to do with my degree.
uh,
So, yeah,
actually,
no, it's different now, of course, but I understand what you're saying.
yeah. So I'll give one more line and then we'll go on to the next one. So I did a podcast with one of the other person. He was our intern. He just joined Amazon a month ago and he just finished his undergrad. He clearly stated Amazon called him for the interview because he had that degree from University of Texas, I believe.
Mhm.
But none of the courses helped him to get through the interview. That's the world we are
Wow.
in. So
Yeah.
he was working for Silicon Valley for you and a little bit before that too. And then he was interning here. And so the work experience he gained thanks to COVID and along with the college degree he had helped him to get through the interview, and now he's at Amazon. And so point is that if he just purely relied on the courses, he wouldn't have gotten that job. He would have gotten called for
Yeah,
it.
because you're not really competitive at that point because there's a million others who do the
Million
same thing,
others.
right? So what set
Right.
you apart is the problems you solved,
Correct.
the other things that you did outside of, school, that can help, that you can bring to this company to help them solve a problem. So the more diverse of a background you have, the more diverse of an experience you have, if it's centered around technology, especially, I think that would really open up doors for you. And if you have done something with that technology that you can show, a project that you completed, I think that would set you apart from
Yeah.
that
You stand
4.7
out.
guy,
Absolutely, you stand out. So I
Yeah.
might even add one more thing to it. I always, that's my segue to the next one. No matter what you want to do in life, regardless whether you want to be in tech or otherwise, especially for this generation, try to learn tech because it's no longer optional, and that's what at least definitely for the future generation. Right now, I don't know if you heard NFTs, right? Everybody's talking about NFTs. uh what does that mean? I mean, so you got to, if you want to really catch on with all these new things that are going to happen, and metaverse for instance.
Yeah.
So they're saying you're going to be immersed into education. Well, let's see what happens. So my point is that, I always preach to the next generation people to take this whole technology as a life skill rather
Yeah.
than a subject. So with that, I know you've been associated with Silicon Valley for you for now 2-3 years, including Caleb. So your son was with us. So talk about your association. What do you think of Silicon Valley for you? And then what else we should, maybe hopefully we can go back to Ethiopia in a little bit more profound way and make it happen next time.
My experience with Silicon Valley for you, it was very positive. My son joined, I think he was in elementary school, maybe in 5th grade. And I also think it's easier when they're younger,
Right.
before they get, pulled into other things. I mean, that's a really
Team.
good stage to bring them in.
Yes.
And then if they catch on, they catch on, if they fall in love with it and they want to continue with it, it's perfect. But I think we owe them at least to introduce them to that field at that age. So he came in at 5th grade. He loved it, and he was doing it, I think, 2 or 3 times a week after school. My experience has been really good. I have a technology background, so I was really excited for him. He's a very outgoing person, and for whatever reason, this really captivated him. This really interested him. He's very smart, so he did the Scratch very quickly and moved up to Python. And so he was learning that, and the kids that he met there were super smart and really interesting. So, and then from the company perspective, I appreciated that, it was flexible enough when COVID hit. I think if you recall, you and I had that conversation, and we decided to take it, you know, and you've gone even more global, but I know we said, you know, why don't we take it to Ethiopia? And there were a lot of recipients, you know, people were really thirsty for this kind of education, because number one, they don't have it, or if they do, the quality is not good. I think we came across, there was one big, I wouldn't call it big, but there was only one coding school in Addis, in the city of Addis. And the feedback we got was not, you know, what the parents really were looking for. So they were really excited to join Silicon Valley for You. And their feedback has been really amazing. Really, it's been amazing. It was a summer course that we ran. And pretty much we ran a pilot, and everybody from the pilot decided to be paying customer, and they signed up instantly. So that just shows that the kids are smart.
Yeah.
You know, just because you're in a third world country, a developing country, does not mean you're not smart. You just don't have the opportunity. So this offered them, again, leveraging technology, it offered them, you know, education of a lifetime.
Yeah.
And you could be in a remote, distant place, you know, like I said earlier, all you need is a smartphone and a computer and an internet. And so, and they had great ideas, you know, there were some that were, you know, partnered in projects. And there were some that just took the general classes. So my experience has been really wonderful.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so one thing I like to add is that the people are smart everywhere. You're absolutely right. I would add to a little bit more by saying, you know, people come from little, you know, tough conditions and humble beginnings, or even more stronger mentally and otherwise compared
That's right.
to
That's right. If you
folks.
remember, we had some scholarship students that
Correct.
were,
Correct.
you know, not from affluent families.
That's correct. Yes, I remember.
And they did to be excelling in the classes. So you're absolutely
yeah, I remember
right.
speaking to them. No, absolutely. That toughness, and you know, I can speak for myself and people that I know of from India as well.
Yeah.
So, and you know, so the life has its own way of, as you say. I mean, you said earlier, to treating people differently, because your kids and my kids, you know, they are in, you know, relatively better conditions, and nothing wrong with it, and they have their own challenges. And but at the same time, the one thing that I really enjoy doing my job is an opportunity to see people from all walks of life, from all over the world. And
right.
One thing that's in common across all these people is, if anybody, regardless of your background, what you want to do in life, if you develop problem solving skills, you're going to do well, period.
That's right.
And the other thing I always add is, you know very well, the world, the actual world is not structured world, it's unstructured world. Schools are very structured. There is a course, there is a curriculum, there is a semester, there is a, you stand in the line and you go inside and yada yada, all these. So for everything there is a process, and then there is a structure. So you do well, there is a structure. You don't do well, there is a structure. You go and then do some alternative things to. All that is great for many couple of decades or even more, and then suddenly you get out, and then you're by yourself, more or less, the first thing. And there is no curriculum, there is nothing. So you know, if you join a company, hey, this is the one, go and work with that guy. So that's when a lot of people might find it to be challenging, because you know, that problem solving skills come handy if they have done that before. Although they are not familiar with it, they can fit in and figure out, and the ability to see the problem, how to solve and get past. The people who don't probably have a little longer time to figure this out. That's the challenge, in my opinion, for everybody. One last thing is that, you know, this is the reason I always want every guy, especially young guy, to teach and mentor someone else. While you're being mentored by your teachers or someone else, you also must mentor someone else. If you don't, if you're not in that cycle, you stop learning. and you never learn. So in other words, if you don't mentor, you never learn, in my opinion.
I
And then
agree.
if you don't being mentored by someone else, you're not going to learn new things. So that's another thing we tried our level best there also, but for most part, that's we are continuing to do.
That is
So
actually the Montessori system. Maria Montessori, she's big in India. I think she went to India. She started the Montessori school. She's an Italian lady. And my son started in a Montessori system. And that's exactly how it is. The older kids teach the younger kids, and vice versa. As the younger
it's a
kids
pipe.
get older,
Yeah.
that's right. And it seems to work phenomenally. So I agree
Oh,
with that.
yeah, it's working fantastic in my opinion, because um, that I'll tell you why. Because there is a tendency, right, especially schools or outside schools too. So when things are not working out, we have a tendency to point at, oh, he's not teaching well. And so if you become a mentor while you're being mentored by someone,
While you're
you're also
learning.
mentoring, then you know the pains on both sides. So then
Yeah,
you slow down, at least you don't point out of
right.
the way, and you
That's
think
right.
through and understand the dynamics, and you try your level best to make it work. If it doesn't work, yes, I mean, there are always exceptions. But the point I'm trying to make is that in the current system, that mentorship option is not available for anybody.
It's not there. Right.
That's the problem, in my opinion.
I agree. That's one of the gaps. That's right. We can add to the list of gaps.
All right. So the last fun question I always ask, do you envision any piece of technology that doesn't exist today, and something that you wish you had? It can be anything,
Oh boy.
fantasy. For instance, people said, I want to go to, let's say in your case, I want to go to Ethiopia every day, like in 30 minutes.
I actually thought about that. Like a time travel
Time
machine, right?
travel.
A
No,
device
no,
that
travel. You just get in the car, it just takes off, and then it lands in Ethiopia.
a teleport. That's what I meant. A teleport device.
Right.
Absolutely. I would love that. And that's the first thing that came to mind when you asked that, is like, the one thing we dread is the travel time,
Yeah.
17, 18 hours, the stopovers. But if there is some type of teleport device, come on, I hope somebody's hearing there, some of the young students there, maybe
Yeah.
they could start working on that project.
Oh, you will see that. The VR AR part of taking you to Ethiopia instantly, you feel like you are in Ethiopia. That's going to happen.
Okay.
Guaranteed.
Keep me
What I'm
my
saying is
fingers
even
crossed.
one step above. You get on the flight
Yeah.
that you get on in San Francisco right now, and that takes you, as you said, 18
And
hours.
then you
So,
hop
yeah.
and you're
This one,
in.
it just takes you within an hour. You're just, so you can work from home. Basically, you just go every day. It's like
That would be
as if you're
amazing,
working
right?
South Bay.
So what else? I know something my son would appreciate would be a needle-less injection. When you get your injection, if it was a needle-less, I think that would be amazing. Artificial intelligence. I mean, there's so much that has not been tapped, right? That machines that can read people's minds. I don't know.
No. They're all going to happen. So
It's
they're
all going to
already,
happen, right?
yeah. So they're
3D
already reading your
printing.
mind, right? They're already reading your mind. So when you go to Google, it shows
That's
what
right.
you're looking for.
Well, they're putting, your trend and your pattern together, and they think they're reading your mind. 3D printing is another area that I feel like has so far to go.
Yeah.
With medical devices and even like body parts. If they can start reproducing like bones and stuff like that, and I think that would be amazing. But yeah, I feel like it's just gonna take off if we come back and 50 years from now, from wherever we are, 100 years from now.
That's what I'm saying. I wish we were born now. Like, you know what I mean?
Maybe a tool that shows us all these things happening. Well, I guess that would be a movie, right? And the science fiction movie already does it.
No, see, I'll tell you that. So one thing, the stuff we thought this science fiction movie, they are happening right now.
They're actually happening now.
So,
That's
no. So
that's exciting.
somebody said that we need a USB drive to dump everything periodically, and then you put it back. So if I want to go back to my time, let's say 20 years ago in India, I just put that in, and then I go and live those moments, and then come back here. So
Right, right. It's exciting. I mean, I think it's a great field, and to your point, I think technology is embedded in everything. So it's imperative that for this generation and the coming generations to learn coding, to learn programming, understand it at least, so that they can make a difference in their lives, really, either creating or figuring things out, how things work, regardless of what field they're in.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Demi. So on that
My
note,
pleasure.
so we are going to conclude this session. As I said before, this is the introductory podcast. So what in future, what we do is we can take a particular initiative, maybe something is of your interest, whether
Yes.
it's in Ethiopia or otherwise, and then we drill down and then create a podcast. Thanks again, and I very much appreciate it. And I'll
My
talk to you soon.
pleasure. Thanks.